Mr. President, this is Richard Peter. This is your daily briefing from We, the People of the United States. My telephone number is 1-877-365-0042 if you'd like to discuss this with me. Today's date is Tuesday, January the 27th, in the year of our Lord Jesus Christ, 2009. Mr. President, I'm sure that you've been told by the economic advisors today that we've lost 70,000 jobs in one day. I don't know why you bring all these people in your office to tell you what you can already read in the newspaper. We know that the economy is knocking at death's door, Mr. President. You don't need Larry Summers and people to come in there every morning and tell you what you already know. The patient is dying, and it's going to require extensive shocks to the economic patient's heart to revive it and move it forward again. And I would suggest that while your start of creating jobs is fine in Keynesian economic theory, John Maynard Keynes is the one who invented government spending to turn things around. Keynesian economics has its supporters. In fact, the only people in your administration that are advising you are Keynesian economists. Now, Mr. President, let me ask you, do you really think that a dead economist named John Maynard Keynes has the only answer to the solutions of the problems that are facing America today? I would submit respectfully, sir, that nothing could be further from the truth. Yes, you can listen to Keynesian economists, but to appoint everybody in your inner circle that believes in John Maynard Keynes economics is a mistake. His only thing is jobs, jobs, jobs. What are you saying all the time, Mr. President? Jobs, jobs, jobs. That's only half of the solution, Mr. President. You need a total solution to take this patient out of collapse and into recovery, this American economic patient. And I'm going to share with you what I believe that solution is today, sir. The first thing that you need to realize is that any economist that gives you a doctrinal ideology and takes their graduate school thesis and forces it upon you, the new President of the United States, and says, prove my thesis now, and put your reputation as the 44th President of the United States on the line by arguing for my thesis, is the most ridiculous thing you could do and the most harmful thing that you can do to your future legacy here, Mr. President. First thing you ought to do is have somebody come in your office from the United States of America, from We the People. Every morning you ought to meet with an ordinary citizen, starting with me. My phone number is 1-877-365-0042. 8 a.m., meet with an ordinary American. Bring them into your office every single day and have them brief you on what's actually going on. How you would select us, I don't know. Use a lottery or whatever you want to do. Have your people search through YouTube and the other sites to find out citizens who are thinking outside the box. But whatever you do, Mr. President, for God's sake, have somebody from the American community come into your office every morning that's working for a living, meeting a payroll, paying taxes, paying these exorbitant health insurance premiums. Talk to We the People, Mr. President, before you talk to these Harvard graduates. And I got nothing against Harvard or Princeton. I'm just saying you don't need to put your reputation on the line proving a graduate thesis that somebody wrote 20 years ago, Mr. President. Let's get real here. All right, now, here is the solution to the problem, Mr. President. You have just appointed Mr. Geithner, the Treasurer of the United States. He comes from a background in the Federal Reserve. That is like putting a fox in charge of the hen house, Mr. President. You had 2 million people come to your inauguration. You have the admiration of the entire world behind you. You have the full support of the American people. If the Democrats or the Republicans give you a problem, you've got a database of nearly 20 million people that you can contact in a matter of seconds by email. You're a technically savvy president, Mr. President. If either the Democratic Party or the Republican Party give you a problem with what I'm about to recommend to you now, sir, fire them both and become the president of We the People of the United States of America, who wrote the Constitution under which you serve. What I'm proposing is a nonviolent revolution, but a revolution nevertheless. It is the only thing that is going to permanently place our economy and our nation on sure footing. And let me share with you the first 3 of these steps. There are actually 19 of them that over the period of the next few days or weeks I'm going to give to you in full. I suggest that you pay careful attention to them, Mr. President, because these are the steps that are going to be necessary for this country to survive. We are on the verge of economic death, sir. Step number one, Mr. President, we the people of the United States respectfully demand, we're not requesting, we demand, number one, the reorganization of the Federal Reserve System, forbidding it to print any more Federal Reserve notes, and that the Federal Reserve immediately be placed under the Department of the Treasury and be eternally forbidden the practice commonly known as fractional banking. Now, Mr. President, let me tell you a story that first of all, I'm a Jewish man. And I don't want you to think that what I'm saying is anti-Semitic in any way. My grandfather was named Abraham Weingarten. But back in the Middle Ages, a very smart Jewish man collected the money of his day and put it on deposit. His bank. I'm not going to mention his name, but he was a very intelligent Jewish gentleman. Okay. He noticed that the peasants didn't come in every day to make withdrawals, that they let that money just sit there. And he said, hey, I got an idea. I'm going to loan what they're not using out to interest and keep just enough on hand. So when they do come in to make a withdrawal, I'll have it to give them whatever their withdrawal. There's not going to be any run on the bank because they don't all come in at one time. Well, that's exactly what fractional banking is today, sir, with the Federal Reserve creating $9 out of thin air on average that they're loaning out at usurious interest. Interest rates should be no higher than 8%, Mr. President. Fractional banking is a sin. It is morally wrong. It is morally reprehensible, Mr. President. You should not loan out at interest, in particular, money that you haven't earned even. And what they're doing is doing what my old friend, the Jewish banker, did in the Middle Ages. They're loaning out money, assuming that the American people are not going to make a run on the bank. Well, Mr. President, in these days and times, that's very well what might very well happen. Anyway, it's morally wrong, whether there's a run on the bank or not. It's morally reprehensible to use fractional banking. So we the people, respectfully demand, sir, the reorganization of the Federal Reserve System, forbidding it to print any more Federal Reserve notes, and that the Federal Reserve be placed under the Department of the Treasury and be forbidden eternally the practice known as fractional banking. Number two, and this is very important, Mr. President. Please listen to what I'm saying here. You need to create a new United States money in the amount of 1 trillion United States dollars. You should immediately recharacterize all this money that you're being given now by we the people, the taxpayers of the United States, the 825 billion. Just let's round it to 1 trillion. Let's recharacterize all that money and instruct your new Treasury Secretary to reprint it in the form of United States dollars. Make it a fiat creation. No longer put the American people in danger of having the Federal Reserve at some future point come back and raise interest rates on their very own money. It is unconscionable. It is immoral. It is indefensible, Mr. President. We don't want to carry around U.S. Treasury notes in our wallets, Mr. President. Do you understand that the borrower is the servant to the lender? That makes the American people the servant to the American bank. Mr. President, do you know that that when they instituted the American Home Loan, if a house cost $100,000, the American people were required to pay $300,000 back? That is unconscionable. It is a sin, Mr. President, to make people pay that kind of interest. It's usurious. It's slavery, Mr. President. Far worse slavery than the black people suffered during the period of time before the Civil War. This is economic slavery, Mr. President, and it needs to stop. So recharacterize every dime of that money that you're going to be given to administer. Call it United States money, round it up to $1 trillion, and then do other future fiat creations in the amount of $1 trillion at a time, because that's what we're going to need, as you deem necessary, as the Secretary of the Treasury deems necessary, and what is generally known as the President's economic team. Now, that's all I have time for today, Mr. President. God bless you, sir, and your lovely family. God bless the President of the United States. God bless the United States of America. Mr. President, I do have something for your ears only. Please give me a call at 1-877-365-0042. Richard Peter, sovereign citizen of the United States of America.